Hey, I'm Robert Pearson. This is Follow the Leader, doing another Morning Musings today. And today I'm thinking about Peter Branscombe. And I just got done watching his 1,000 Points of Shite video, which is kind of a really delightful outline of Satan's game plan. It's pretty concise considering you have 6,000 years of history packed into a 26-minute video. It's good. It's worth a watch. Go watch it if you haven't. I might link it in here if I can figure out how to do that. But I feel like the same 5 people watch both their videos. It's fine. Everything's fine. But it's always a delight hearing someone else who understands how the world works from a hard work perspective expound the deeper things of God. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, Peter Branscombe's talking about how Satan is operating, and I've always had the same perspective. I've articulated it slightly differently though. So he has an interesting way of viewing it, as Satan is jealous of us as a creation, that we're are capable of outshining his beauty in that we reflect the image of God. And he might not, even though, his beautiful creation, angel light, whatever. It's very interesting. I've always pictured Satan working at direct odds against God. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to kill everyone. Because sin is death. And that's the whole, sin leads to death, all of it, always. The moment you sin, whether it's right now or in 20 years, it's going to kill you. Whee! And I've always pictured Satan going against God. He can't hurt God. And he can't win. He has to know these two things. So now, winning becomes hurting God's feelings, because we know God can feel bad. It repented the Lord that he made man. That's Satan's whole game. And that's literally the entire game, is he has to make us destroy ourselves and make us fall away and go to hell. He has to do that because it's the only way he can hurt God, because God's invincible. But God cares. And if he cares, it means his feelings can be hurt. That's why he has to turn his face away from Israel when they're sinning. It hurts his feelings. He repented the Lord that he made man. And that's the way I've always viewed it, is that Satan's entire goal is to simply hurt God's feelings by causing us to defile ourselves. Owen Benjamin has a couple of good rants in the midst of his stuff where he's articulating that idea that Satan accusing us before God is, look at them, look at what you made, look at what they've done, just over and over again. What is the deal? This Skinny Cow ice cream garbage is an affront to my eyes. Sorry, I just drove by, or am driving next to their truck, and they've got a cow that's been drawn in the image of a buxomy, unclad woman, and it's an affront to the eyes as I'm driving. I don't know what marketing guy thought that was a good idea, but I hope he gets fired and then hit by a bus on his way out the building. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff that Satan makes you do. The way men reflect the image of God is by being strong, by protecting, by working hard, by being faithful, by being the spiritual leaders of their family. The way women reflect the image of God is through their beauty and through their Paul says, God, man is the glory of God and woman's the glory of man. And our wives really give us a picture of how we are supposed to behave towards God when they are at their best. They reflect the whole system. But their desire to be beautiful, their desire to be loved, their desire to love and to nurture and to care, those are the ways that they reflect the image of a God. It doesn't matter how terrible of a murderer somebody is, their mom will always love them. And while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. But at the same time, you know, if at least any godly man filled with the Spirit of God would be willing to take the life of his own son should his son become a vile murderer. God is a God of justice. In the same way men desire to see justice done upon the wicked. We both reflect that complicated and beautiful nature of God. And Satan constantly tries to turn that on its head by making women kill their own children, by making men soft, by making men desire to be effeminate. There's this entire trend. Satan has so subverted our culture. Why are men wearing women's pants? That's interesting. Why are men speaking in soft, effeminate, lispy tones when these are perfectly straight men, some of them good and godly Christians, that because of the influence of the world, in how subtly it has influenced them, speak softly in soft tones, and it's just how they articulate things, and it's all limp wrists and tight pants, and it's fine. And it infuriates me, because it is not becoming of an image bearer of the Most High as a man. You are to reflect, to the extent of your abilities, strength and honor and power just within your realm. Like I work construction. I'm skinny, but yeah, I'm skinny strong because I work. But you know, not everybody has to be a powerhouse. There are skinny nerds that sit behind desks all day. They have power and strength in their sphere of skill. I don't understand the nuances of how computer networking systems work. And when you step into somebody's sphere of skill and ability as a competent man, it's obvious, and you feel a little inept in an area where you have a skilled man and you're unskilled in that area, and he's taking you to task, showing you how it's done. It doesn't matter the big picture. It doesn't matter what they look like physically, but that man should still desire to be physically strong. He should still carry himself in an assertive and masculine way. These have been male traits for thousands and thousands of years, and Satan has so subverted our culture that he's able to undo that. And even in little small ways caused us to defile ourselves, if only superficially. And so that's the way I've seen his hand in it. I've always viewed it like a chess game. God and Satan are in a game of chess, and we are simply the pawns on the board. This game of chess, though, is an interesting one because they cannot touch the pieces. The pieces have to move on their own. And it's simply up to the pieces to decide which way they move and for whom, for which team are they on, for whom do they fight. And because there are two teams, simply choosing not to serve God puts you on the other team. Because if you're simply watching evil happen, you're allowing evil to happen, as Ezekiel's watchman on the wall. Simply saying nothing when you see what is coming puts a portion of the blood guilt on your hands. It doesn't absolve them of their sins, but it simply adds you to the list of the guilty. Man, that cow thing was really upsetting me right now. Anyway, that marketing guy needs Jesus real bad. Everybody does, but I feel like he needs a little extra today. Anyway, man, I want him to be ashamed of it every time he sees it. Anyway, so that's the game. It's a game of chess where the pieces have to move themselves, and it's simply up to God or Satan to try and convince them. And because there are only two teams, if you're not for God, then you are against him. However, at the same time, you have the disciples telling Jesus, hey, there's some other guys casting out demons. We told him to stop. And Jesus says, do not forbid him. For those who are not against us are for us. It is only two teams. So the moment anybody, anywhere, starts representing what is true and good and beautiful, they're immediately undoing the work of Satan as a byproduct. I just finished watching Avengers Endgame, which is it was definitely a movie, and it was neat to have it kind of be the final farewell to Hollywood for my wife and I. We got done with it and we thought, yep, that's it. We're completely done now. That was the only narrative arc of any movies that we were even mildly curious about. And it was still so interesting. I was having to overlook the subversion to simply go, all right, let's see the fight. Let's get to the end of this narrative arc so I can feel some resolution and see where they had taken it. I wanted to watch Captain America die in just a blaze of glory. It was going to be awesome, and they didn't give him that. Because why? Because he's too much of a Christ figure. He's a known Christian. He can't die to save everyone. They needed the corrupt Tony Stark to do that. The morally bankrupt playboy who had found meaning and was a father of a little child, he was the one who had to die. Alright, fine. We're the men. We die. That's how you save your families. You have to be willing to jump in front of whatever craziness happens and be the first one to go down. Cool. But just, there was so much subversion around, like they had to go back, so they went back in time for part of the narrative. And so, of course, they go back into all of these other movies and create subversive elements in the films that were not subversive. Admiring Captain America's backside and such. Over and over again throughout the film, there are those little obnoxious, subversive moments. And they have to undercut it and chip away at it. Because simply having a movie where the good defeats the bad, where honest men rise up. That's why they had to, after the first Avengers movie, they had to start putting cuss words into Captain America's mouth. It started with that whole language running gag. Language. And so then, of course, they had to end it with, no, Captain America is corrupted now. And he cusses. The whole movie's about not being able to accept failure and move on, and grasping and clutching at the past, and thinking that you can undo what was done in your own power. The whole movie was about undoing sacrifices that had been done. Side note, the Black Widow movie that all the nerds had wanted is never going to happen now. But it was just fascinating, though, that every edge, every angle where it could have had a more fulfilling, redeeming quality, it had just intentionally, ideologically undercut it over and over and over again. Because there are only two teams. Because anything that is good, anything that is true, anything that is beautiful is a mark against the enemy team, is a mark towards God. Because God is true and good and beautiful. So it's not the broad way, it's the narrow way. Captain America's sacrifice of going into the ice and knowing that he was going to live forever. Well, he didn't know he was going to survive in the ice at the time. He was just like, I'm going to die and lose out on all this. And then he's like, I can go back in time and fix it. Spoiler alert. Like, he got to have his cake and eat it too. And you're like, no, that undoes all of it. Your sacrifice means nothing now. Because you got to go back and have your cake and eat it too. The meaning of your sacrifice is empty. It wasn't a sacrifice then, because you just got to do what you wanted. You got both. You got to beat the bad guy and save. The whole point was he couldn't do both. He had to give up everything he had to save everyone else. And you don't have that with Pink. There we go. You don't have that if he's just able to go back in time and fix it and go, I get to fix it. It undoes the sacrifice. It undoes the Christological elements of the hero narrative. That's the whole point of superheroes. Is there an allegory for the Christ narrative that is engaging and compelling to children and to childlike adults? It's engaging, it's fun, it's lighthearted. I forgot my work tablet. That's cool. I'll make do with my phone this morning probably. But it still has to follow that Christ narrative. That's your narrative structure. All proper engaging narrative structure reflects the Christ structure of a chosen person fulfills their destiny ultimately by dying or some immense personal sacrifice or struggle, only to narrowly escape death and become king of everybody, or the hero or the victor, and then they can live in peace after that. That's your entire narrative arc. That's the hero's journey. It's why every engaging story reflects Christ in some way, which is the lever that Jordan Peterson keeps pulling to weave his entire satanic fantasy together. It's just fascinating, though. That's got me thinking about the only two teams element and how Satan subverts everything. Everything. So that's all I got. Go watch Peter Branscombe. He's got some good sermons on the post-tribulation rapture. He's got a good two rapture sermons. That was 2 hours of, guys, don't wait for Jesus to come snatch you up in the twinkling of an eye until things get real bad, and then we're pulled out right at the last minute. That's I think reflects the way God does stuff, because otherwise everybody who gets saved in the tribulation, God has to come back for. And he's just like making multiple trips throughout history. What's the point of the rapture? Does God not have enough car seats in his minivan for the first go? I mean, once he pulls Christians out, that's it. There's no reason to keep the planet running, bud. You're just going to wipe it. So he's going to wait till the very last minute, like harvest. Almost like he's going to wait till it's ripe for harvest, and then the wheats and the tares. Almost like he is not slow as some men count slowness, but desiring that all should come to repentance, not wanting any to perish. Almost like that, till the fullness of the number comes in, and then it's chopping time. Then the master returns and sets everything right. All right, that's all I have for you. Don't take my word for it. I will see you next time. Godspeed. Somewhere there's a